All right, so it looks like we're live according to the little chat applet thing I got going on. We are driving it home with the professor. That is the mantle with all of the nutcrackers on it, and this is kind of it'll be out after Christmas. But this is our Christmas edition. I have on a very close personal friend, but someone that I consider an instructor and coach, Kru Eric Karner. My experience with Kru Eric was through a mutual friend, mutual student, Mike Oliveri, who connected us and said, I think you guys would benefit from meeting each other. And Mike was right. At least from I've definitely benefited. I'd had worked with a couple different kickboxing, striking, boxing, MMA striking coaches, and until I'd met Kru Eric, I hadn't met anybody with the mindset that I had come from in jiu-jitsu, where the technical aspect was super important. The little pieces are what got you to the big pieces. The first time I'd worked with Kru Eric and the subsequent times, just the ability to give small corrections that made the big difference in what I felt was helping me improve in my kickboxing. So that's why I have him on today. We're going to talk Muay Thai, we're going to talk kickboxing, we're going to talk how that relates to MMA. I'm going to pass the mic over to Kru Eric. I'll let him introduce himself, give his little history, and why you guys should listen to what he has to say. So, Kru Eric, the mic is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor. Um, as Professor told you, we met through a mutual friend. I had been doing. I think when did we meet? In 2007 or something like that.
I think,
2008.
yeah, somewhere, yeah, somewhere around there, about 7, 8 years ago.
Just a little background. I started in martial arts, at a pretty early age, doing some Shotokan, and my instructor was a kickboxer as well. He also did some boxing, so I got a little taste of that kind of at a young age. Um, through high school, my senior year, I switched schools. My school had closed down actually. My mom used to drive me like a half an hour each way. That school closed down, so I went to another guy, and about 6 months in, he went to Thailand. He was like a Taekwondo guy, but he went to Thailand for, I think it was like 6 months on business. And when he came back, he sort of changed things a little bit. That's where I sort of was open to Muay Thai. I remember sparring with kind of his go-to guy. It was a guy who was a little bit older than me at the time. He was probably about 19 or 20, pretty tall guy. And I remember sparring with him, and he put me in a clinch, and he started kneeing me. And I think for the first time in my karate career, I felt totally helpless. So that's what sort of turned me on to Thai boxing. It wasn't
So,
many years later that I actually started training in Muay Thai, but that's where my search started, I guess you could say.
so your Taekwondo instructor goes to Thailand, comes back, and starts implementing a Thai style at his traditional martial arts school. Is that what happened?
Yeah, he started implementing some pieces. Hey guys, we're going to try to kick like this. We're going to do this. The Thais do elbows. They do knees. Looking back on it, was he the best Thai boxing instructor? No, not at all. But he started he saw how to that it was important to implement some of these techniques that he learned when he was in Thailand.
You said you felt helpless when you were in that clinch, right, in the first time in your
Yeah.
karate career. So was that kind of that aha moment where you're like, I need to learn more of this, or were you like, oh man, if I get better at karate, I'd be able to defeat
Yeah, that was the aha moment. That was the aha moment that I want to learn Muay Thai. I think Kickboxer was like out at that time, the Van Damme movie. Um, so that sort of gave me kind of an idea what it was. I used to watch sometimes like on Sundays. I don't know if you remember. They used to have um, like full contact karate, and once in a while they'd have Muay Thai on there. That's when I started kind of you know learning that about that there's this art out there called Muay Thai, um, but it wasn't until years later that I actually got to really start training at a legitimate place.
So did you continue training in karate while you were kind of, or like or was there a gap in your kind of martial arts
That
career
that
till
was
you
the
got?
gap. Yeah, that was when I was about I think I was going into college. So I was like 18. That's when I left home, went to school for a year, and then I traveled Europe, and I was kind of a little all over the place. But yeah, it wasn't until a couple of years later that I actually got to train in Thai boxing. It was always
So
in the back of my mind, though, something that I wanted to.
now, one of the problems that kind of even 7 years ago and a lot less now, that there really isn't that much Thai boxing in the Pennsylvania, South Jersey area as opposed to Taekwondo or even Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
And I'm assuming back when you were, when you were 18, if there was anything, or was there even anything for you to kind of search out?
There was not. There was a place. My buddy was also really interested. One of my really close friends, and he's actually a jiu-jitsu brown belt now. But him and I, we were always like martial arts enthusiasts. So we heard of a place, and it was in Princeton. They're actually still around, I believe.
Pama?
Yes, yes. There's a guy named Rick Tucci. Um, but that was unfortunately that was like an hour and a half from where we lived, or like an hour and 15 minutes. I think him and I went up there one time and we checked it out, and it was like, oh, this is cool. Like they wear the shorts and everything, but it was too far, kind of out of the reaches of us. We also liked it too because they taught like JKD, like Bruce Lee's stuff. So we were like, oh man, this is awesome. But it was just way too out of our reach for two 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds at the time. There was another place that was nearby. All of a sudden we saw, hey, did you see that place that says Muay Thai on it? And it's like, oh my God, this is awesome. So we went to check it out, and the guy, again, was wearing a gi, and it was just basically just showing Taekwondo, and he was like, no, 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 this is Muay Thai. This is Muay Thai. We're like, no, it's not. That's not, you know. So, it's just, he just put it on the sign, he just put Muay Thai on the sign, and, two young guys come in, he says, oh, yeah, 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 no, this is Muay Thai.
Well, so this, and I know we didn't talk about this, but this is probably a really good question for people out there, especially with your level of expertise. That's real easy for somebody as a school owner, right? Unscrupulous school owner can put Muay Thai on their school, right? And you walked in and you had the kind of foresight to realize this isn't a Muay Thai school. But say somebody who's looking for Muay Thai, right? And they walk into a school and they don't know. Maybe they've done a little bit of research on the internet, or they drove by and they popped in. What are some of the things that they should be looking at when they walk into a Muay Thai school to say, hey, this place is legit?
Well, I mean, obviously, sort of maybe the instructors. I would ask kind of where, like, well, where did that instructor come from? Where is the lineage? Now, Thai boxing is pretty small, especially on the East Coast. You can kind of just with a couple simple questions find out where they came from. I mean, there was only a very few. I mean, in the Philly area, I mean, it would be very few places or people that were sort of heavy, influencing the area on Muay Thai. So it's a pretty small enough community that you can kind of see, where the person came from. So you kind of have a lineage there. I know, not some places. It's really unclear where their lineage is. It seems like the
Okay.
instructor maybe went and did a seminar here, a seminar there. It's just unclear where they trained, or maybe they just don't mention that they came from another school that's in the area. Or they could be like myself. I didn't really start learning Thai boxing until I moved to California. So it could be another like transplant. But I think it's important to ask, who taught them? Where did your, almost the same as in jiu-jitsu, you'd ask, well, what's your lineage? Are you a Hickson Gracie, a Hoist Gracie? I think lineage is kind of important. Where did you come from? That's a big part of it.
Now, would there be any kind of lineages where you, like, being entrenched in the Thai boxing community, be like, ooh, man, like we you probably don't want to go with those guys, or like, hey, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk bad about any particular school or particular lines of lineage. There is one that's let's just say a very popular throughout the United States, and it was formed by a man. He happened to be a Thai guy, but I don't think he really had very much experience um, in the ring or running a school, for that matter, or really even training fighters for that matter. I think his experience was just kind of going around doing sort of seminars, which is okay, but there's a lot of stuff that gets lost in translation. And then he sort of set up this big organization where he just kind of bounces around doing seminars, but he never really had any fighters. He never really worked with anybody. So you can ask one of those instructors from those lineage, oh, okay, you're from so and so's, organization. That's great. How long have you trained with them? How many pad rounds have you done with them? How many fights
Right.
cornered you with? And chances are the answer is going to be like none to zero, or close to zero with that answer. So I think
So
it's important that you have some sort of, it's not too hard to just look up a particular, if somebody says they're from this camp or that camp, a lineage of some sort, to kind of, just do a little bit of research to see exactly where they came from. I think that's important. I think that kind of tells you, um, kind of what's to expect. Like, if the place is legitimate or not. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of places that just kind of say we teach Muay Thai or whatever. Ask them who their instructors were. I think that's
right, because I would think that, right, if you walk into a place that says Muay Thai, right, and
right.
the guy's wearing a Taekwondo gi, that traditional pullover gi, and he's telling you now there might be some Taekwondo schools that cross train in Muay Thai and all those other things, but they're two very different arts, and if they're selling you one in the same, they're doing you a disservice.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely. And I think also too, it's hard to focus if somebody says, "Well, we teach Taekwondo and Muay Thai." Well, you have very different ways of punching, very different ways of kicking, very different, weapons that you're using, and almost like the body mechanics of each thing. So it's very difficult to be a straight Taekwondo practitioner that's also very good at Muay Thai, just because of uh, Muay Thai or Taekwondo, you kind of flick the kick, and Muay Thai, you throw your whole body throughout the kick. So it's kind of that might be another red flag when you hear somebody that teaches different stand-up arts, maybe other than boxing, and they mix it with Muay Thai, where it's like, well, we teach Kempo and we teach Muay Thai, or we teach. I think those are uh, almost counterintuitive with each other.
Right. So what we could like for any advice for anybody that would be a new student walking in the doors, kind of when you start asking questions, that either the way they answer it or the truth is going to come out, right? If they are like, well, all my lineages, and they start fumbling around or they start talking about people that are either aren't legit, or maybe you have sometimes where people talk about people that don't even exist just
Right.
because they're fooling people. Um, so moving on, right? So we just want to make sure that when you're walking into a Muay Thai school, you're getting exactly what you're looking for. If you're looking for Muay Thai, make sure that your instructor has that lineage. But also on top of that, what we're saying is that they have the time in with the lineage. Lineage is important, but time in with the coaches is probably even more important.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
So now your journey, you're trolloping around Europe, uh, and then you get to California, and this is where you kind of discover some Muay Thai. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it was like the first week I moved to California, I knew that they had Muay Thai out there. It wasn't my sole reason for moving to California. I had friends out there. It was just the time in my life. I was in my young to mid 20s where I was just time for a change. It was the days that I could just pick up and go, and so I did. And I remember my first week there. I think I passed a Muay Thai place, and I said, "I'm going. This is awesome. This is one of the reasons why I moved here, is because I knew they had good Thai boxing." So yeah, right away I went right to, it was called the South Coast in Costa Mesa, South Coast Kickboxing. Um, that was my first Muay Thai gym.
And then from there, did you kind of did you move around in California, or did you stay in kind of one area?
I did. I moved around quite a bit, but all in the same area, if that makes any sense. I moved, just from little town. I was all SoCal, but I moved, I was in Huntington Beach, and then I moved to Santa Ana, to Newport. But I was always in the same area. But at first, I did jump around quite a few different schools.
Okay.
And back then, I felt like I kind of had to, because one school would give me one thing, another school would give me another thing. For example, one school was very good at just sort of breaking down technique and learning technique, which I thought was very useful. So I went to that school. Where they lacked a little bit was when it came to sparring. They didn't really have any guys or really competitive guys to really go with. So I'd go to another school that was sort of had more fighters and stuff. But what that school lacked is they didn't really teach you anything. So I would have to kind of bounce around at different schools. Each school kind of gave me a little different, um, little something different that I need. There wasn't a school that had kind of everything that I was looking for,
So,
in the sense
so
of,
at any point, did you land at that school where you're like, wow, I'm getting the best of both, like the instruction's top notch and the sparring is right where I need it to be?
no.
It's always, what's fun for me when I do these is when I get the answer that I'm not expecting.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
he's going to say yes, and we're going to
yeah,
talk about this great
no,
school.
no. Never found that perfect school, and that's what I try to create within my own school. I remember what it was like, um, to be kind of like a coachless competitor. I remember what it was like for me to try to help my buddies um, get ready for fights when I really had no experience doing it. I remember what it was like being in there with monsters, sparring, these killers, and them not giving a shit about me learning from this experience, other than me getting banged up from this experience. So I think that helped me in the long run. I think it helped me when it came time to create my own school, and what the things that I knew that were really important, that I were looking for, that I didn't get in one school when I was out there.
So looking back on it, with the experience that you have now, being a school owner, you have multiple locations now. Um, but looking back on it, what do you think was either the problem or the reason why the technical school was so technical yet not so tough, and why was the tough school so tough yet not so technical?
That's a good question. The tough school was kind of a different sort of business standpoint. It was the tough people that worked there, not the tough people that went there. So
The instructors were the
the
tough guys.
instructors were the tough, right, right. And then we would all sometimes meet at other gyms to train. You know what I mean? So we would go there to work and work out with each other, and then do our classes and whatnot. But the classes weren't technical learning style stuff. Was more fitness kind of thing. I don't want to drop names of the gyms.
I got you. Yeah. But
But
I
it
mean,
was,
that's what happens sometimes when you have fighters running classes, right?
yes, yes. We just want to get through the class so we can spar afterwards,
Right.
with our own little group or whatever. I think the more technical place, now looking back on it, the technique, it wasn't really Thai style. It was kind of a mix, and again, going to one of those, kind of like a school that attached itself to an organization that may or may not really be a valid organization, like valid in the sense that the owner of the organization never really had a school, never really, other than just being a Thai guy. And as you know, like, just because you're Brazilian doesn't mean you're very good at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that's sort of the same. But anyway, they broke down the techniques, and I thought that was very helpful, even though I ended up changing the way that I did most of the stuff that I learned. I think it was more their teaching method,
The approach.
the approach, right? That was very useful for me, because I wasn't getting that with the Gym of Killers.
So, and the other thing I think we can agree on, or hopefully, or maybe I'll laugh because you'll give me a different answer, but is that whoever owns or runs a school basically has what they want. If the guy wants a technical school, that's what he's going to have. If the guy wants a school that is a bunch of killers, that's what he's going to have. Or if a guy wants both, that's what he's going to have.
Right, right, agreed.
So now you made mention of the technical school didn't really teach in the Thai style,
Hmm.
right? And I know something that you really kind of gravitated towards is that Thai style. Can you explain to the people, the hundreds and thousands of fans that we have on the show.
Viewers out there.
The 78 subscribers I have. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's probably three styles of Thai boxing, right? There's the Thai style, there's the Dutch style, and then there's the Western or American style. Is that correct? And what would be the difference between the three?
I think when I think of American style, I think kind of like what I guess you would consider Dutch, very very boxing influenced. Generally, no clinching, no elbows, uh, maybe knees, but usually 3 rounds instead of 5 rounds. Therefore, the 3 rounds you're coming out guns blazing for just 3 short rounds. Um, Dutch style. When I think of Dutch style, I think of a lot of hand to punch. Punch again, heavily influenced with the hands, um, which is sort of, well, that was sort of my base in California. I had gone to a couple different Thai trainers when I was out there, and I went to a couple Thai trainers in Vegas, um, and they kind of changed maybe my thought pattern a little bit. But it wasn't until I actually went to Thailand to really see and feel and experience the difference between a Thai style where, remember, you're going 5 rounds, you start out slowly, you're being judged, your hands don't really count for anything. Your hands are also, you have padded gloves on your hands. They don't hurt nearly as much as when you're getting kicked, when you're getting kneed or elbow, where there's absolutely no protection on them. So, for instance, in a Thai fight, when you're watching the Thai fights, they're going to judge you on style. How style is he showing emotion? How technical is the red or the blue? Kicks. How many? How are they landing kicks? Are they landing good knees, good elbows? You could land if you take a couple rounds with throwing some good kicks and really landing some good body kicks, or to the arms or to the legs. The other guy could have you almost out on your feet with the hands, and they're still not going to count that for anything. You have to, if you're going to use your hands, you better get a knockout in Thailand. Otherwise, you're not going to get any points for it, and you're going to look desperate. So it's a totally different judging criteria.
Yeah, I've seen some kind of and it's more so the Dutch guys, at least the stuff that I've read, back in the Raymond Decker's era, when he was going to Thailand, they would say, the judging was terrible. But in what I'm getting from you is that it's not that the judging was bad, is that the criteria is different.
Yes, absolutely, totally different. And Ramon Deckers is one of the very few foreigners to really take it as far as he has. I mean, he was one of the great ones. He was able to kind of adapt what they call the Dutch style. Although you see Deckers, I mean, he was throwing head kicks, he was throwing elbows, he wasn't afraid to clinch. You know what I mean? So he knew, and he was training at some high level camps in Thailand. So he was sort of adapting a Thai style, if you will. Just this, I got back 2 weeks ago from our last trip in Thailand, and I saw a lot of foreigners fighting Thais. And I got to say, the foreigners are getting much better. I think they're starting to get it a little bit more, but we're still behind the Thais. And the hands just aren't nearly as effective, especially when you're fighting a Thai who really knows how to use his kicks. Because every time you're coming in and breaking that, it's really about distance. Once you're breaking that distance, they're getting kicked, or they're getting stuffed with the clinch, not able to even get the hands off. So, some people get a little confused. They say, "Oh yeah, but in K1 or in whatever the new one is, they do this." But that doesn't have clinch and doesn't have elbows, really. So that's why maybe boxing would be more effective with those rules versus an all Thai. When you're fighting Thai boxing with Thai rules, your hands, it's very easy to beat hands, if that makes any sense.
Okay.
So that's the main difference is the clinching, the elbows. Totally changes your whole game, and to nullify boxing. And time and time again, foreigners have tried to beat the Thais with the hands, and they end up most of the time losing.
Well, it's always fun when you search around YouTube. You look at either jiu-jitsu challenge matches, or my new favorite thing is Muay Thai versus. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like Muay Thai versus boxing, Muay Thai versus karate, and in some cases you'll see in the beginning maybe the boxer is kind of getting off, but that almost sounds like from what you're telling me is that's the Thai style of starting out slow, and as the rounds progress, that's when the Thai's technique but also intensity starts to ramp up.
Right. And if somebody's just boxing that whole round, even if they're landing shots, that and then the other guy's just being cool, calm, collected, showing his ring presence, that's going to be a 0-0 round. That's the way that first round's going to come into the judges. They're going to call it 0-0 wash. Even if the other guy did absolutely nothing, he just got punched.
So now you're in California and you decide to go to Thailand. How did that all happen? What made you kind of like,
That
hey,
was
say,
yeah. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
That was actually when I just got back and I opened my school. It was I said I need to go to. I want to learn more. I trained a bit with some Thai trainers, and I said I want to learn this style more than anything. I want to learn. I want to do it just the way the Thais do it.
Okay, so this is good because I wasn't completely aware of this. You're in California, you're getting good at Thai boxing out there, the best you can do with what's available to you. You
Yeah,
come back east, you open up your school, and then that's when you decide to go to Thailand.
yeah. I was actually coaching in California for 2 or 3 years. I was full time coach at a gym, actually two gyms. Um, and then yes, when I moved back, I opened my school. And that's when I decided that I need to. I really want to take it to a different level. I mean, I thought it was pretty good, but I wanted to really learn the Thai style. So that's when I started to go to Thailand, taking trips to Thailand.
So you take the you've been to Thailand a bunch, right? Your wife's Thai, your kids beautiful, your beautiful kids are half Thai, and um, what did you was it the same kind of thing though? Were you bouncing from camp to camp, or did you kind of like this is where I want to go and this is where I'm going to be, or did you kind of have to find your path when you were in Thailand as well?
A little bit of finding my path at first, because mostly because I was kind of all over Thailand. I was up in the north. I was in Bangkok. Actually, I wrote a letter to one of my Thai trainers from here in the U.S. And he kind of gave me a list. He said, "Well, where are you going to be? Where are you going to go?" And I explained, well, we might go up north. We might go here. And he said, "If you ever go towards the south, you go. If you're in Bangkok, it'd be worth the trip. Go, 2 hours south into Pattaya, Thailand, and go to Sityodtong." He said that's one of the best camps in the country, world, famous. I think you'll like it there a lot. I think it'll fit your style a lot. So, my first trip over, I traveled. I was going from camp to camp. When I was in the north, I was in Bangkok. Went to a couple different camps, and then I went to Sityodtong, and it seemed like they really they got it. For one, when I got there, they took me in and accepted me. Fairly quickly. I felt like these guys really care about me, um, and just the techniques that they were showing me, and that actually breaking it down and actually showing techniques as opposed to just 10 kick. A lot of times you go to a camp and they just try to get you exhausted and make you feel good. 10, 10, 10. And you're so dead tired and like, okay, good, you come back tomorrow.
So he's a Thai Taibo.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We call it getting flanged. That means they're just, okay, this white guy, I'm just gonna.
Oh, so they have White Boy Day out there.
Yeah, exactly. White boy day every day. I train out there.
So you land at Sityodtong.
Yeah,
They take you in,
yeah.
and kind of what's that experience like? Because
That
from
was
what you've told me, that's arguably one of the best camps. You're telling the people here it's one of the best camps. It sounds like it's one of the most technical camps.
yeah.
Um, but it must have been a cool feeling being like this foreign guy in this foreign land with these guys helping you with the art that you truly love.
Right. Right. And I think they saw it. They saw that I was, for one, I was very respectful. I was here. I didn't go out like partying every night like a lot of foreigners come and whatever, bringing girls back or whatever. I was pretty on. They could see that I was pretty on the straight and narrow, and I was there to learn. And I do whatever they told me to do. Um, it was a real eye opener because I always thought like my California Muay Thai would get me. You know, oh, I'm pretty good with my hands. I think I could get these Thai guys with my hands, and that's what really showed me that um, no, you can't just use head movement on a Thai and get in there and think that you're going to outbox them because it just doesn't work. Every time I was getting kicked in the head, so they gave me some good hard lessons. Um, and it just seemed to really fit my style. The way they were showing me to do the techniques, it just fit my style. It made sense. It wasn't like a full verbal breakdown. They're not like, okay, now this is why you do this or this. It's not really like that when you train with the Thais. But after a while, you kind of get an eye for it, and I would just started building the relationship from then. I've been back several times. I'm very close with the camp. Um, I that's where I've stuck to, and that's where I've that's what I call my lineage.
So now, for as great as a camp that it is, you and I both know that not every place is for everybody,
Right.
right? My school, your school, Sityodtong. What kind of guys do you think thrive at a place like Sityodtong, either be an MMA fighter or a Muay Thai fighter?
I think guys that are not so ego driven, because Sityodtong is a very thinking style. It's not just brawn or the biggest balls or however you want to put it. It's
What do we call that? That's Muay what?
That's Muay Lang. Like
That's a shout out. That's a shout out to Derek.
yeah. We're more Muay Chilat, Derek. Muay Chilat. It's like a thinking style. You can see it when the kids from the camp fight, and you can see it through the great legendary guys that came out of Sityodtong. I mean, some of the best, most of the world's recognized Thai boxers from the golden era came from Sityodtong. Samat, Galangtong, Yadecha. There's so many of them, but what set them apart is that they were actually beautiful in the ring. The way they moved, the way they tricked. They were able to have a lot of gracious victories by outsmarting their opponent, not by just outpowering them.
And that's not common in a lot of other camps. Is that what your experience has been?
Yeah, a lot of camps, especially Thai boxing. It's sort of as technical and complex as Thai boxing. It could be really simplified. Right hand, right kick, hard as you can, go. Just that's how simplified it really could be. You're telling a little kid, just clinch knee, just clinch knee, just clinch knee, or you're telling them, left kick, left kick. Just a simple weapon. The kid's got a hard left kick. That's what you're going to tell him to do.
So you bring up the kids, right? So I know that there's an aspect of it, and we'll get into that in a second. But you're saying that the fighters that do well, or it sounds like the fighters that would do well at a Sityodtong style camp or affiliated school like your own, is a thinking man.
Yeah, intellectual.
Like us.
Yeah. Higher brain power, people.
So you talk about the kids, and I don't think a lot of Westerners or foreigners understand what you mean when you say the kids at a Thai camp. Like what are you talking about? It's not that it's not a parent taking a child to a Muay Thai class.
Most cases, no. Most cases they're orphan children, and or their parents can't afford them anymore. So a lot of Thai camps will take in children, or just have neighborhood poor kids training at their camp, in the hopes that as they fight, that they're going to make money on their fighters, and in return for taking care of them and feeding them, they get a percent of the purse. Plus, a lot of times there's going to be some some bets involved while the kid's fighting. They hopefully double and triple that income. So it's a business. That's the business of Thai boxing in Thailand is prize fighting. That's
but I mean, it is a business, and sometimes we can look at business as evil, but they are taking these kids in that if they're not getting taken in by this Thai camp, either they're not getting fed, or they could turn to a life of crime, or something way worse than being a prize fighter, right?
Right. So it has a huge. I think it definitely molds many of those children's lives for the future, whether they continue to Thai box and be successful, or even if not, even if they can just make it to the part where, I mean, just the discipline involved in what they're going, running 2 times a day, and waking up early and training, and training, in the evening, two times a day, and sometimes waking up early, training, going to school, coming back, if they can afford school, and and then training, whether they're successful or not, it really molds the character of who they are, keeps them off, like you said, keeps them off drugs, keeps them out of trouble. That's really where, Kru Tong's philosophy. At one point, he had, I think, 30 or 40 kids that he's feeding, and you
And
know.
the other opportunity that kind of I would assume opens up to them is becoming trainers. So okay, maybe they become a champion or not, but you know what, man, those that can't teach, right?
Right. In fact, there was a kid at the camp recently, and I remember him fighting when he was about 7 years old. Now he's 14 or 15 or something, and I remember Kutoy saying, not so good, doesn't have a necessarily great record. I told him, just keep training. You be a trainer. You hold the pads, and then so. That's another great thing about the Sityodtong camp. A lot of other camps would just, you got a couple losses under your belt, and see you later, kid. You're not making us any money. But that was never the way that Kru Tong did it, and now Kutoy, who's taken over.
So
Um,
so there's kind of a social piece to running that camp as well.
Very much so, yeah.
Now, I'm going to just switch gears, and it's something I'd always wanted to ask you. I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
Now, like I was watching a video, unfortunately, of Tommy Hearns today, right?
Hmm.
And some of these old boxers, and you listen to them talk, and you're like, man, talk about punchy and guy that when you saw him in his prime was sharp in the ring, but also sharp with his wit and his tongue. Um, I don't know that many Thai boxers, but is that a similar problem with these Thai boxers? Because these guys have hundreds of fights.
Yeah.
But I'm curious is the punchiness kind of as prevalent as you would get in boxing?
I mean, not really. And there could be some, and I don't, maybe because they retire so early, at such an early age. I mean, a lot of guys retired by the mid-20s. But then again, they've been through, 300 fights. I think also, too, the way they train, they don't, like, if you watch the way boxers spar in the gym, they might as well be on Showtime. I mean, because it's full tilt, 100%. Yeah, they're wearing
Right.
headgear, but so what? They're just, beating the brains out of each other. And the Thais, for one, they don't spar that much. When they do, it's not that hard because you're fighting every 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Okay.
That's your hard sparring is in your fight.
Your time to shine is in the stadium, not in practice.
Right. Right, exactly. So I think that helps with the longevity. I do know of one Thai gentleman that is a little bit punchy, and especially the only reason I really know that is because of my wife. She'll be like, "This guy's crazy." He starts on one path of a conversation and then totally just stops, looks off into blank space, and then says something that had nothing. But you know what? He was a boxer.
But
He was
I know plenty of people like that, and they've never been hit in the head once.
right. But he was actually more of a boxer. He started Muay Thai, and then he actually became I think he's a WBC or WA champ at one point.
So in Thai boxing, as much as you'll attack the head, you're attacking the legs, you're attacking the body, you're attacking the arms. So there's the less repeated blows to the head, causing that chronic brain injury problems that boxers might suffer from.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, same with MMA. MMA doesn't seem to be quite uh, as damaging to your head as maybe, let's say, boxing. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's
Yeah, that was one of those questions that I assumed I knew the answer, and I got the answer that I thought was going to be the right one, because just from the different areas that you're striking, you're not always just striking at the head. Even though some guys will punch to the body in boxing, you're going to get more credit for knockouts and hitting a guy in the head and all that other stuff.
I think just the way they practice. I think the way they practice. If you watch boxers training, when they spar, they don't. There is no half speed. All right, let's take it easy, guys. it's usually full tilt. I mean, it's just the same as. I
I
mean,
I love those videos of Mike Tyson with his sparring partners where they're like those guys are just insanely afraid to go into the ring because he's gonna beat the crap out of them.
yeah, he knocks him out. He's knocking out he's breaking his toys, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, well, I worked for him to a certain degree, but um, it, changing gears again, and this I want to kind of go down where we're wrapping up because this has been, as much as we're boys and we talk offline and all this other stuff. This has been an enlightening conversation for me because there's some things that I found out today that I didn't know. Um, but for somebody that kind of has listened to this thing all the way through, right? Now they know he started off in Taekwondo, karate, got a taste of Muay Thai, goes to California, comes back, opens up his school, goes to Thailand, right? So he's got all this experience. Now, the Kru Eric Karner of 2014, what could they expect from one of your classes, if they become a student at Nak Muay?
Yeah, I think the first thing when anybody comes in our school is they see the type of atmosphere we have. People are really friendly. People are really a lot of times when you come in, I've been to other places before where it's like cliquey or this group or that group, and we don't really have that. Everybody's like really sort of open and really nice. So that right away that kind of chills out the mood. I mean, I know sometimes you could be, and even still to this day, when I walk into somebody's gym, even if it's my friend's gym, you get a little bit of that anxiety, like you're not sure, you don't know the people, or just. So I think that's normal. But I think here, first of all, you're going to be, met really friendly staff, really friendly people. I think what sort of separates our school is sort of the level at which we sort of break down everything. I have a very structured curriculum. It's designed, where some people will go into competition. It's very few. So what I've done is I've designed a program that really teaches you all the skills in a progressive manner that you can go up the ranks just the same as with jiu-jitsu school. But you have measurable measurable steps of progression. And there's certain parts as you're learning, if you want to say learning the art form, you're adding these, you're starting with the basics, that's where everything starts, and then adding these pieces and elements to your game, to ultimately, if you wanted to spar, or if you wanted to compete, or wanted to be an instructor yourself one day, we can take it all the way up as far as that goes. Or if you're just somebody that's just looking to, get in shape and learn some good skills, I mean, definitely formidable skills for self-defense, or just learning how to Thai box, learning it for art form.
So now I'd have to kind of say that most, right? I mean, traditionally in Thai boxing, there's no rank structure, correct? I mean, it's either like at least here in America, it's either you have your shorts or you don't. So I see that as a pretty progressive step for you to have taken to kind of say, hey, we need these intermediary kind of pieces to let people know that they are progressing along the path. Is
Yeah.
that what kind of led you down to kind of having the rank structure?
Yeah, I think unless if let's face it, not everybody's looking to get into the ring. So if you're not looking to get into the ring, then what exactly are you looking for? And what I've noticed with my students is they were looking just to learn the art. So I was able to sort of formatively break down the art of Thai boxing and all of everything that I've learned, and sort of package those into thinking about, okay, what do I want my 1 month student to look like? What do I want them to know? What do I want my 3 month student? Okay, now my student's been here for 6 months. What do I want them to know? What do I want them to be able to do? Going up until 1 year, what do I want my 1 year students to be able to do? So I really sort of broke it down in my head what I want my students to be able to do and perform. I think a lot of other schools kind of overlook that, or they just use the excuse that, oh, well, there's no belts in Thai boxing, so we don't do belts here, or whatever, or prajas, or whatever, have any kind of ranking system. And I think that's wrong. I think that's, and people say, oh, well, in Thai boxing they don't have. well, guess what? Chances are you're probably not a child, and probably are chances are you're not a poor orphan child either. So, what are we really talking about here?
Right.
We're not talking about apples and apples. We're talking about apples and oranges. Like Thai boxing to the 95% is something very different than Thai boxing to the child who's trying to make his way out of poverty.
No,
Um,
that's great because I mean you're what you're allowing is people to have quicker access for a longer amount of time, right? Because it allows them to see, okay, this is how I'm progressing. My coaches are giving me quantifiable goals to reach. Once I reach these goals, there's a new set of goals set up. And when you're a fighter, that's not your concern, right? When you're a Thai fighter, you have your goal is my fight's in 2 weeks. I have to bash that guy's face in, and then I'm going to have another fight in 4 weeks, and I got to bash that guy's face in. So you don't need to worry about these kinds of things. But we both know that most people aren't looking to fight. They're looking to train like a fighter, but not
right.
necessarily fight.
Right. And I think also too, it's just it's I think it's one of the best workouts you could possibly get, especially doing pad work. Once you get to the level where you can actually do pads, holding pads is another art form in itself.
Yes, it is.
That's right. So that's another element. I really like to bring into like Thai culture, Thai history, how this ties in. I really like to bring it in perspective of learning about where our sport came from and where it's going. We're always kind of staying on the forefront of things, and yeah, I think that's one of to me that's almost equally as important is the cultural and sort of what's really behind the art.
So I know I kind of said this was going to be the last question, but it's leading me in the more stuff. So hopefully you're not pressed for time at this point.
No, I'm good.
All right. So um, when you've taken your guys back to Thailand with you, what kind of feedback are you getting from your Thai trainers? You know, saying because that's kind of like what if I were to go to Brazil and take my students there, I'd want to, oh man, you guys are good, or they're doing well, or like, hey man, what are you doing back there in the States? Like, what's going on, kind of thing. Like, what kind of feedback are you getting from the Thai trainers when you take your fighters and even the guys that aren't fighters to Thailand to work at the camp with you?
I mean, mostly positive feedback, and okay, this is good. We can see they know me so well now that they know, okay, it came from me. Usually when I'm doing something or when I'm sparring, I'm very Thai style, so they see me as almost a Thai brother. Some of my fighters, might not be at the same understanding of Thai boxing as I am. So, for instance, this last trip with Billy, at first, he's doing power work. His footwork's kind of a little quick, and he's kind of sort of in MMA mode still. So we kind of get him to sort of slow down and adjust, and now he starts to see, oh, okay, so now I'm more set to kick. So it's like a learning experience for them. Not that they were doing anything wrong before. It's just we had to kind of switch gears from guys that are doing MMA to guys that are doing pure Thai boxing. As far as my personal style, I'm very similar to a lot of the instructors, like Kru Every time we go together, it's back and forth. We know the same tricks. We're doing the same. We're sort of almost the same style, almost the same person. And he's always laughing. He's always saying, "You same as me. You same as me."
You pay me now.
Right. But all my students that I bring over, they really have their own, and that's another thing is that I don't cookie cutter. I teach the techniques the Sityodtong way or the way that I've been taught. But I know each person's going to have their strengths and weaknesses. A guy like we were mentioning before, like Derek, he's about 6'4", 170 pounds soaking wet. He's going to be a knee and elbow guy. Then you might have a shorter guy. He's going to be I'm going to really try to work his leg kicks and maybe
Right.
some power shots. So every person's so different. But I try to get all the basics to be the same, so they can say yes. This is Sityodtong style, the way.
And the guys are all tough at the end of the day. Do you know what I'm saying? Like they're getting that benefit from it. Like with a ranking system or not, you're confident that your guys know how to fight Muay Thai.
Definitely.
See, and that's what people need to realize, that, like you said, you're comparing apples to kind of oranges. See,
Yeah,
because the reason why I asked that question, because when you came out to our school, I was tickled pink. I know we're friends and you're going to be nice, but I know you're the kind of guy that would have told me, hey man, what are you doing? Like, why are these guys doing this, or why are they doing that? Or, I was really happy to get the positive feedback, because I'm not a Thai guy. I came to
yeah,
this late, and kind of, I'm lucky to have, if I were to kind of say, hey Eric, can I take a look at your curriculum? I know I have an email sitting in my inbox, and
yeah,
that's the complete curriculum, and then I'll be like, okay, well, this I don't have this many Thai students, but I've kind of done, from your curriculum that you gave me before, all right, this is what's gonna work for us and our style. And I was really, like, just really happy when you gave us the positive feedback, because that's, as somebody that wants his students to be good, that's what I want to hear. Is like, hey, my instructor, my coach is saying you guys are good, and it's not just me, you
yeah.
know.
I think you've done a fantastic job at really breaking down the basics the same way that I think you and I are really similar that way, that we believe the basics is the foundation of everything. And just so I can almost hear, like, as you're saying the things, hey, pivot your foot, do this, like, oh, that's exactly what I said. You know what I mean? It's like there's a congruency to both of our teachings, that hey, this is the foundation, this is the really stuff. Then we can kind of tweak as we get along, as we go on, and stuff like that. It's not about how fast you're doing it right now. It's just doing it correctly. Just really getting the technique spot on. And I think you've done a fantastic job at that.
No, thanks. And I think that's kind of like this is how the conversation started. Like, and ultimately why we are good friends, but also you're somebody that I respect an awful lot in the martial arts community, because at the end of the day, you're worried about your students getting better, but also getting them better the right way through a foundation of good basics and technical ability. So I think the community at large should be thanking you. Any parting shots? Anybody you'd like to thank? Any sponsors? Anything coming up at any of your schools that you'd like to let people know about?
Sponsors, that would be nice, wouldn't it? What sponsors are you working with? Maybe I can.
Oh yeah, I got a couple things working right now. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, no, unfortunately, no sponsors. I'm working with some high level MMA guys. We got Timmy Williams and Bill Algio and Joe Strickland and a couple other guys. We have some great amateurs up and coming for Muay Thai. Actually, two females that are killers.
Yeah, one girl just had a knockout victory, right?
Yeah, head kick knockout. So I enjoy my time, with them. I love that aspect of it too. I'm also, I'm for 2015. I've had my curriculum around for a while. It took me a long time to formulate it. I'm doing a little tweaks. I think this last little trip really kind of made me, again, go back to the basics. That was a big thing. When I go to Thailand anymore, it's not they're showing me the next, double flip, triple kick or whatever. It's really training my eye, with the fights, and it's really training, listening to my mentors over there, the things that Kru is saying, and just picking up on those little things. So, I'm gonna kind of keep trying to improve. Our curriculum over the next, over this next 2015.
So that your current students and any future students will definitely be beneficiaries of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, Kru Eric, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. We've probably gone for almost an hour,
Okay.
but a lot of really cool stuff. I learned some things that I didn't know, and I thought I kind of knew. I thought I knew everything, but that's obviously not the case. So thank you for being on.
Thank you very much, Professor. It's been great.
All right. Driving it home.